Greetings and hallucinations to all you people out there. I have an interesting cast for you. This was sent in to me by TA for Life, and I do realize that I did just do a cast of him. But this was sent in, and he asked that I would do an entry in my Another One Bites the Dust series for this cast. Technically, that means that I'm supposed to critique his play, but I approach this laughingly because he is a 1779 1 versus 1 rank, and I am a measly 1050 or some such number. So basically, I'm going to observe and watch how he fails and point out things to you guys with the full knowledge that he probably knew exactly what he did wrong, and maybe he won't repeat it again. Who knows? So, this should be a funny game. We will see where it goes, and hopefully it will be entertaining to say the least. This is TA for Life versus Zlo UEF versus Seraphim. Two amazing players with the two probably most well-balanced factions. I say that meaning they are both brute force land-based faction. Nothing really exemplary about the air for either one. And the Seraphim does have the chicken, which is a good direct fire experimental, but not as good as, say, the GC or, in most situations, the Megalith, possibly even the Monkey Lord. I don't know which one of those I would rather have. So, ooh, first bomber right off the bat, hovering around and sniping off some engineers. TA for Life is going to need to stop that factory and start anti-air production. He has a tank in there and swapping to anti-air. Nope, still a tank. Stopping again. Hello. There's the anti-air unit. That thing is going to fly away and see what those are. Both of these factions have a tac launcher backpack. And Bomber is still alive somewhere off the screen. One thing that Zlo is going to have to watch out for is the fact that UEF T3 is veritably unstoppable. So that could throw a wrench in the works later on in the game. But as far as Tier 1 and Tier 2 goes, UEF and Seraphim are fairly closely balanced. Alright, Scout heading south, and there's an anti-air down there. He's trying to find that bomber. It is still alive somewhere, hanging around just off the screen, waiting for an unsuspecting engineer to wander out just a little too far, and it will be sniped off. That early bomber was a dang good investment from Zlo. He was able to keep it alive, kill multiple engineers. He was able to force this factory to quit building the tanks, which I take it TA for Life was intending to use for early aggression, seeing as he had already built his scouts. So a whole lot of havoc caused by one single unit, and I must say that was a bit slower response from TA than I would have expected. I'm wondering if he may be slightly buzzed or under the influence of other substances. I do not know his habits personally, but I do know that a lot of people on FA do play high. So, sometimes slower than anticipated reaction times are the norm. One thing I must say about TA for Life is he has amazing eco balance. I was observing that all through the last cast that I did of him. It didn't matter if he had 50 mass income or 150, and it didn't matter if he had no reclaim for 5 minutes or he was reclaiming a freaking Soul Ripper with 5 engineers. He never overflowed mass, and he never really stalled. Now, at the beginning of a game like this, you can understand a little bit of stalling here and there, but after the game got up and going, I was very impressed with his eco management. Well, that was interesting. One tank is able to fire past the hill, and the other is not. Some fluke of the trajectory on that little crater right there. And this is problematic. We have run-bys and bombers and all kind of nastiness everywhere. It looks like Zlo has had a much better start than TA for Life. He is currently pulling far more mass, although some of that is probably reclaimed. Currently it is tied on power, but the problem is he has gotten TA for Life off his footing. Once you slip up and the run-bys start getting past you, it is very hard to recover. It is extremely disconcerting to be pushed that far off balance. I am happy to see a nice little push up here to the north. Counter aggression is always a good thing. But the problem TA for Life is having at the moment is he has lost air control and he's having trouble getting it back. And there's all of these bombers crawling all over the map. Incredibly aggravating. Sniping off all of the build power. He did push for a tier 2 land factory, and we're seeing that amazing eco management coming into play here. He is pushing pillars. Hopefully the tier 2 tanks will help turn the tide. Pillars exceptionally good units at taking on T1 tanks. They're very effective in groups. Pretty similarly matched to the Rhino for Cyberns. The one bad thing is that they are not a match for Ilshivas. Ilshivas do devastating things to pillars, but UEF does have the advantage of a shield at the T2 phase, so a couple of shields accompanying those pillars and you will be A-OK. There are not many units left behind TA's front lines, but the units that are there are being an incredible pain in the buttocks. See all of these scattered around. This one down here was especially nasty. And yet another engineer going down to that tank. My goodness. Zlo gets kudos for being the single most annoying player I have seen this week. This is some dedication to harassment, guys, like nothing you will ever see. This is what makes a 2K player a 2K player. You start the pressure early and you never let up. All of these P-gens here are down to 100 health. All it's going to take is one T1 bomber coming in, winging across that, and there's going to be 4 more power generators down. And still, units getting by, threading those tanks in between the ACU and these other units and working his way back around. He is sitting next to the edge right here and just murdering any engineer that dares to show its face next to those mass points. I've never seen an instance where this many mass points in your own base are empty. This is hilarious. Sad, but hilarious. Notha's out for Zlo. He has made the shift to T2 air. TA for Life has done a surprisingly good job of scouting, considering the fact that he has basically no air and is at a total disadvantage here. But he does have some intel, and he is pushing. Anything you can do up here is a distraction from more damage being done down here. And another single tank. He needs to go back and nab that engineer. That's what he needs to do. Zlo must not have seen that. He had the opportunity to demolish that poor little home builder. And Interceptor's flying to take care of that Notha. And while the air threat was being eliminated, yet another group of units in the back here. To be completely honest, if I were TA at this point, I would build a T2 point defense in my base, because this would be pissing me off to no end. And I would just say, screw it, I've lost so much mass already. No matter how much I hate point defense, I am building a T2 point defense back here because these freaking tanks are annoying the heck out of me. But apparently, no. And power stall. That is not good because he has lost radar coverage, and we now have a whole nother group of tanks coming down on the build power. He has 2 half-built power generators. Why are there 2 half-built power generators? TA, you know better than this. You finish one, and then you finish the other when you're not power stalling anymore. These are basic concepts. I fail to see why you are playing like this. Well, I can see why you're playing like this. The entire map is disintegrating out from under your very feet. But still, that's a bit basic. And power is back online. Perhaps there will be an opportunity to overcharge something, but at this point, I'm not seeing how it would make any difference. Alright. Keep this mental picture. I'm popping over to Zlow's side. Holy freaking cow. That is 19 land factories, pushing an absolutely absurd amount of T1 spam. Screw T2. Screw T2 mechs. All we need is Zoos and tanks, and a lot of them. The enemy may have tier 2. The enemy may have tier 2 power. And yet another tank trying to be a hero. But no, T1 is plenty for me, thank you. And to the guys who have commented on the fact that I seem to love the T1 phase too much, look at what you can do with it. We're here at 17 minutes. Zlow is 100% T1 except for a single T2 air factory. He is T1 power and floating extra. That does not seem accurate. There's got to be a T2 gen somewhere. No, it is just distributed T1 unless I am staring at it and not seeing it. Hydros and distributed T1. And the base disintegration continues. So distributed T1 power grid is able to net him 10,020 power. He is on T1 max, pulling 85 mass per tick, but that is not including the amount of reclaim that he is sucking up in all of these areas with all of these units dying. 10,000 reclaim from the offensive player. Normally you see that from the defensive player. We do have 18k reclaim for TA for life. Kudos on that number, because I know that I would not have the APM or the presence of mind to go after reclaim when my base looked like this. But we can see here an entire game taking place in the T1 phase, and it is a gargantuan game. You really don't need to push T2 that hard as long as you're aggressive. Alright, TA looks like he has finally gotten together a critical mass of T2 tanks in the center gap here. And nope, TA is throwing out the GG, and he is going to control K. Honestly, I don't think you had to control K. The T2 land looked like it was finally starting to make a difference. I really think maybe a point defense, and you had the tier 2 and you are UEF. UEF has a brilliant point defense. I think a couple of strategically placed T2 point defense and all of those pillars that you had, I think you could have actually come back from that with the amount of reclaim that you had, but I can understand why you would control K, because when you have a player that harasses you as much as he did, That is annoying to end all. So, good game from both players. I am sorry, TA for life. That was a hard loss. But hopefully, we can all learn or observe something about the game that maybe you didn't notice before. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any games you want me to cast, leave me the replays either in the comments below or as a message on the forums or on the FAF client. Y'all have a good day.